Chapter 8. Aadhira's pulse thundered in her ears as she stood in the packed courtroom, delivering her closing argument with every ounce of passion and conviction she possessed. The case before her was more than a legal battle. It was a confrontation against powerful forces that sought to bury the truth. Her client, a man caught in a web of scandal, was being vilified by those who preferred silence over accountability. And while Aadhira fought tirelessly for justice, she was painfully aware of the eyes fixed on her, many of which belonged to none other than Rudra Raichand. Rudra despised her client with a ferocity that went beyond business rivalries. To him, the man represented everything corrupt in the system, a stain on the reputation of the Raichand Empire. Aadhira's defense was bold, almost revolutionary, and it clashed head-on with the interests Rudra was determined to protect. As she concluded her argument, her voice resonated with determination, but the murmurs of dissent and skepticism in the gallery made her heart sink. Before the judge could deliver a verdict, the heavy courtroom doors swung open with a force that silenced every whisper. All eyes turned as Rudra stormed into the room. His presence was like a sudden winter gust, cold, unyielding, and charged with pent-up fury. His dark eyes scanned the room, and when they landed on Aadhira, a storm of emotions flickered across his face. Without a word, he strode directly toward her. In an instant, his hand shot out and clamped around her wrist, the grip firm and unyielding. Shock rippled through the courtroom as murmurs broke out, but Rudra paid them no mind. He dragged Aadhira toward the exit, ignoring the startled gasps of onlookers and the disapproving stares of influential figures. Outside, the cool evening air hit them like a jolt. Rudra didn't let go until they reached the line of sleek, black cars parked under the dim glow of streetlights. The tension in the air was palpable, as if the very night held its breath in anticipation of what would follow. Rudra halted abruptly, spinning Aadhira around to face him. In that moment, the soft reflections from the car's polished surface mirrored the intense battle playing out in their eyes. His voice, dangerously low and laced with a mixture of anger and something uncharacteristically tender, broke the silence. "I won't let you risk yourself for people who don't deserve you," he growled. The words struck Aadhira like a physical blow. For a long, heavy moment, she searched his face for any trace of the usual cold indifference, and what she found was a flicker, a crack in the relentless armor that Rudra had built around himself. In his dark eyes, she saw a reluctant concern, a silent admission that perhaps his fury was not only about protecting his empire, but also about shielding her from a world that he believed would destroy her. Her heart pounded wildly as she tried to process the contradictory emotions swirling within her: anger, defiance, and an unexpected tenderness. "Rudra," she began, her voice wavering slightly, "you can't keep doing this, dragging me out like I'm some possession." He held her gaze steadily, his fingers still gripping her wrist with an intensity that belied his harsh words. "I'm not doing this to control you," he said, his tone softening just enough to reveal the inner turmoil he rarely allowed himself to express. "I'm doing this because I can't stand the thought of you being hurt by those who'd see you broken. I won't let you throw away everything you've worked for." Aadhira's breath hitched. It was the first time she had heard Rudra speak with such raw vulnerability. The accusatory chill in his earlier words had given way to something that felt like desperate care, an unspoken plea to protect her, even if it meant overstepping every boundary they had carefully constructed. "I'm not some fragile being who needs saving, Rudra," she snapped, though her voice trembled with the weight of her conflicted feelings. "I make my own choices." For a moment, the world around them fell away. The noise of the city, the scandalized whispers of the courtroom, even the cold glare of the night, they all receded into the background as they stood there, locked in a silent confrontation. Rudra's grip softened just enough that she could sense his internal battle. His eyes, still smoldering with anger, held something else now. A silent apology, perhaps, or a promise of protection that went deeper than mere possessiveness. "You're too stubborn, Aadhira," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "I know you're capable, but I also know that there are people out there who would crush you if they got the chance." She felt her resolve waver under his gaze. It wasn't just his anger that unsettled her. It was the realization that behind that harsh exterior, Rudra cared for her more than he was willing to admit. The sincerity in his eyes was a painful contrast to his relentless control. Aadhira's heart thumped in her chest as she met his eyes, and for a moment, the weight of their turbulent marriage seemed to hang in the balance. A fragile promise that perhaps, in the midst of their relentless battles, there could be something more genuine than the cold war they had waged for so long. With a final lingering look, Rudra stepped back and released her wrist. The silence that followed was heavy, charged with the unspoken understanding that their relationship was changing, cracking, if only slightly, under the pressure of their emotions. As they turned toward the waiting car, the night air enveloped them in its cool embrace. Aadhira couldn't shake the truth that had been revealed in that brief, intense moment. Beneath the veneer of control and hostility, Rudra's fierce protectiveness was not without care. And in that first fragile crack in the ice between them, a dangerous possibility began to emerge, a possibility that maybe, just maybe, they could find something real amidst the chaos.